Hi everyone, this is Elathera, and this is an instructional video that's going to take you through how to make your very own Pikachu Shadowbox. By the end of the video, you're going to have something that looks a little bit like this. So this is the box that we're going to be making. Before we start, I just want to go over the materials that we're going to be using along with all the paper crafting. So when you get everything set up, you want to make sure that you have a bottle of glue handy. So in this case, I use Elmer's glue, Elmer's Skull glue, but pretty much any glue that you have on hand will work. I also have a tray to mix the glue in. So this is my tray. It's just a piece of clear plastic. You can even use a paper plate or whatever you want, just something to keep the glue in. And then I have two different things that I use to spread the glue. One is a toothpick, so it's for fine detail. And then I have a piece of cardboard. It's a little bit thicker and easier to use and easier to hold on to. Doesn't matter what you use, just something that's going to work for you. You'll also find it handy to have a pair of scissors on hand in case there's anything that you want to trim, as well as any tweezers. So for example, having some sort of needle-nosed tweezers if you have difficulty working with tiny pieces, as some of the pieces that we are working with today are going to be quite small. And last but not least, we have these little foam adhesives. They're little round stickers. They come on a tray that you can just pop them out of, just like this. And we're going to use these to add depth to our shadow box and make the different elements of Pikachu pop out. So I hope you find this video instructional, and let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to start by pulling out all the different pieces that we have to work with. So I have everything right now inside a bag. I'm going to take them out piece by piece. There's a lot of tiny pieces, so you want to make sure that you aren't losing any as you pull them out of the bag. And then the remaining piece in here is actually the background. What I have looks like almost like little Pokeballs, which is pretty cool. The trick to getting this out of the plastic bag is, well, if assuming you want to save it, you can just bend at the corner here and pull it out like this. Alternatively, if you don't care about the bag, you can just cut it open and it's a lot easier to get it out. So I'm going to set the background aside because that is the last piece that we're going to work with. And let's go through the pieces that are inside the kit. So the Pikachu box has a fairly simple design. It's less complex than some of the other boxes that you can watch other video tutorials on and make. But all the pieces that are yellow are parts of Pikachu's body. So we have the main body for Pikachu. And what I'm going to do is show you how all the pieces layered together, and then we'll put it together. We have Pikachu's other ear, his tail, his 2 feet, both feet are identical, so it doesn't matter which one you place where. And then his 2 arms. The one is just in front, on the front side of his body because he's turned towards you. The other piece is on the other side of his body and has wrapped around in front, like this. Right now the layers are sitting on top of each other for your paper, so it may not seem like they're popped out very much, but we will use these foam adhesives here to be able to add some depth so that it's more clear what pieces are in the foreground and what pieces are in the background. So those are the main pieces of his body. We also have some detail work. So we have his little rosy red cheeks. The little stripes on his back. So there's 2 of them. Another piece of his tail. Having some trouble sliding it on. It'll be a lot easier when we have it glued down. There we go. Let's put his little stripes back. And then also the pieces on his ears. So these fit on the very tips. So that's basically what it's going to look like when Pikachu is all done. Let's see how that compares to a completed piece. So this is a good example where you can see how the layering in 3D does add some depth to it to make it a lot easier to tell where the shadows are and what pops out furthest and what's furthest in the background. So we'll move next on to gluing the pieces together, and then we will apply the foam adhesives to make it pop out where we want it to add some more depth. So I've added some additional light from the side, so it's a little bit easier to tell now where you're seeing the light being cast, so you can actually see some of the pieces that we're working with more easily. So go ahead and put some glue off to the side. So I have my little tray that I'm just going to put some glue in. We're going to start by working with the brown pieces, so the extra component on his tail and his 2 little stripes on his back. For the tail, all you need to do is line up the pattern of the little zigzags on his little lightning bolt tail. So we're essentially going to glue it down like this. You don't have to cover the entire back in glue, you just want to be able to put a dab on so that it's going to be able to stay. Once you have it in place, you can go ahead and press it down so that the 2 pieces stay together. And we will set that aside so that it can dry. Next we'll take the 2 pieces of the tail, or not the tail, the stripes on him, and do the same thing. So we're just going to glue. A little dab of glue on him. And stick it right on the bottom. Press it down again, and do the same thing with the other piece. And we can actually position it up higher, so we may want to put it right about here on Pikachu.
How often does it reset if you use the first one? The script is, it stays that you log out and reset, but the console you can do every time you log in. I haven't actually had the console reset on me, but it's not like it should. Yeah, it's never reset on me, so there's not one.
Next we're going to work on his cheeks and just glue them basically where you have them positioned right here. You can see I'm using the toothpick to help me also position them into place. Alternatively, if you find it difficult to work with some of the pieces, you can use a pair of tweezers. And you want to do the same thing with the tips of Pikachu's ears. I'm just gluing everything. All these little details are being glued down. And that is all that we have to glue on Pikachu. Everything else that we're doing is going to involve using these foam adhesives to make him pop out and look 3D. And we'll also do some bending and folding so that the light is going to hit him at certain angles and make some shadows. So both of them are going to add more of a 3D effect. So I'm going to set aside Pikachu's body for a second so that we can work with the other pieces that we have in front of us. And we will start with the feet. So if you take a look at the feet, they have little claws at the end. And what we want to do is make those claws a little more visible. And a good way that we can do that is to curl the ends of them. So you can take your fingers and just pinch the ends. And that makes it look like his claws are like this instead of this. Do the same thing to his other foot. Don't be afraid to apply pressure. Now we want to attach Pikachu's feet to his body. And we're going to do that by using these little foam dots. So the side that I have facing the camera, you can see has the little circles cut out. And on the back, it's not quite so apparent. What we're going to do for each of the feet is actually put two dots together. So we will have two levels of thickness, or two layers of thickness on the feet when we attach them to the body. That's going to make them look further back and more distinguished. So the way you can combine two different foam dots together is to peel the covering off of one, and then peel the entire second dot out of the pack and stick the two sticky ends together. And I'm pressing them together to make sure that they stay. So now you can see that this has two thickness instead of one. Then you can peel the entire piece away and apply it to his foot. And again, you want to press down so that you know that it is adhering to the paper. Go ahead and repeat the same exercise for his other foot. Once you have them completed, we can attach them to Pikachu's body. And all the glue should pretty much be done drying by now. You want to be able to angle them such that they're facing slightly in a this way direction. So it makes it look like he's walking. And you'll basically position it so that the feet are in the middle of the bottom here, the bottom two edges. So it'll look something like this. So you want to peel the backing off of 1 foot at a time. So you can see it's sticky. And apply it underneath and again press down to make sure that it stays. Then repeat the same thing with his other claw. You want to try to get about the same angle and about the same distance between his body and where his foot starts. Next, we're going to make Pikachu's mouth pop out a little bit. So right now it's hard to see, but if I angle this in the light just right, you can see that there's a mouth cut out of him. We want to take his upper lip and peel it forward facing you, and take his lower lip and peel it backward. So if I just gently bend the paper here, I can get my fingers underneath and just pull a little bit, tug a little bit. And you can see that it's bringing that forward. And on the back side, do the same thing except tug the bottom away. So now it looks like he's talking. I wonder what he would say. Pikachu! So next we'll work on attaching his ear and his tail. These are fairly straightforward. We're just going to use 1 dot's worth of thickness, but we're going to use 2 dots on each. So 1, 2, 1, 2, just like that. Because the pieces are a little bit bigger, having more than 1 foam dot is going to help it stay in place. So now there's 2 pieces on the tail. I'm going to go ahead and put 2 pieces on the ear as well. So now I'm going to peel off the backing from the tail. If I had longer fingernails, this would help. Here we go. And you want it just above your lower stripe. So somewhere around this range. Press down again, hold it in place for a few seconds so that you know that it's going to stay. And then we'll do the same thing with the ear. So you want the angle of the ear to be raised a little bit up, almost like he's kind of perky on the side. Press down again. And we're almost done. Now we just have to do the arms. So for the arm that's in the back, what we're gonna do is put one dot right here, and we're gonna bend his arm forward to make it look like it's more in the back, in the foreground. So you can see that I've bent it. And then I'm just kind of folding his claw down, so instead of having it flat like this, I've curved it a little bit. 19%. So you just want to position it so it looks like he's reaching his arm in the front of his body, and then press it in place. You see it sticking out a little bit, just like that. And for his other arm, we're going to position it right about here. We're going to do the same kind of curling, so instead of having it flat, I'm just going to do this to make it look like it's sticking out a bit. So now you can see that it's bent instead of straight. And we'll just use one little sticky dot to bring it forward. I put it close to the top. You want to position it below his cheek and right next to his top stripe. And have it angled a little bit so it's almost like his two hands are going like this. So it's mostly done at this point. The rest is just adding Pikachu onto the background and maybe doing a little bit of embellishments. So we did a little bit of folding. If you wanted to get more creative, you can make the pieces pop out a little bit more. So for example, you could take his front ear and maybe bend it forward a little bit. Take his back ear and bend it back. Maybe have his tail do something like this. And then if you want his body to look like it has some shadow to it, what we can do is just fold this side down a little bit. So if I just pinch along the side here, it's going to make it look like he is turned. I'm trying to make it so that it catches the light differently. We could probably get even a little more pressure on there. So there we go. So to attach it to your back, and just get it here so you can see it, we're going to position him right about here. So he's a little bit off center. We're gonna put two foam dots stacked on top of each other right behind the tail here. And we'll put another two dots behind his head right about here. So you'll want to stack two dots on top of each other like we did before with the feet. So you peel off the top of your first sticky dot, and then you layer the second sticky dot on top of it, press down, and then you peel the whole thing off. I'm going to turn Pikachu over so you can see where I'm going to stick these. Put one set right about here. I'm not putting it towards the very, very end because I want to be able to curl the tail forward a little bit. And the other 2 dots we'll put right about here. And if you feel it's necessary, you could apply other dots in other places too, just to give it a little more stability. Okay. Actually, let's make his head pop out a little bit further. Let's add some more layers onto this. Let's make it twice as thick. So instead of 2 dots, let's do 4. So I got 2 again. Press them together. Peel them off. Now I want to combine them with my other 2 that I already put down. So now I have 4 layers thick. Peeling off the backing, putting it down on Pikachu, pressing down to make sure that it stays. And we're going to peel off the backing from the very top layer. Do the same thing on the tail, and we're going to position Pikachu. Alright, so these are both sticky now. I'm going to place him off center, right about here. I'm pressing down on both places that we have the little foam dots. As the finishing touch, I'm just going to peel up his tail a little bit on the end here. So there you have it. You have completed a Pikachu paper art 3D awesomeness.